What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the PNN podcast. Playoff basketball has officially arrived, and no one else better to cover it than Edward Neiman himself. He's not going to dive too deep into the Lakers stuff today. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but you never know with this guy. Got a good episode on deck for us, though. We obviously got the playoffs started. We got NFL draft happening Thursday. So we're just getting too dialed in, you know. I feel
Yeah.
like every episode we have, there's something amazing going on, you know?
Yeah, tis the season. Tis the season, Joey. Unfortunately, the NFL draft is in Green Bay this year, so honestly,
Yeah.
the NFL draft might be dead on arrival, but we have all the preview and everything in terms of NFL draft coverage in this episode, as well as, like you mentioned, NBA playoffs are here, my favorite time of the year. So yeah, I'm excited to get underway. We'll start with the NBA. Some pretty good series we got so far. Nuggets and Clippers, they're tied at one apiece. Two really good games to start that series off. The Knicks and Pistons, they're also tied up 1-1, headed back to Detroit. The Timberwolves have a 1-0 lead on the Lakers. Warriors up 1-0 on the Rockets. A little bit of a surprise there. The Cavs are up 1-0 on the Heat. And then Indianapolis has a 1-0 lead on the Bucks, and then to no surprise, OKC up 1-0 on the Grizzlies via a historic, um, I guess, route in game one of that series. But yeah, Joey, I don't know where you want to start it off. I mean, I guess we should just probably get the elephant in the room out of the way. Congratulations to Anthony Edwards and company for winning game one of a seven-game series. Game one of a seven-game series.
Yeah,
You got to win four. I don't know
yeah.
if Timberwolves fans are aware of that, but you have to win four games to win the series. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean we heard him. We heard what he said on the sideline to that fan. I'm not gonna say it what he
right.
said word for word, bar for bar. But you know, that's just the way they're feeling. And you could see in the post game conference, he said, you know, we're not even supposed to win. That's just how it is. No one's counting us here. So we're just gonna play like that. And you know, I think that's a mentality that, you know, that can kill you or, you know, get an upset against GOAT James. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, great start for them. You could tell like some of these teams came out a little slow. I mean, you talk about that Memphis game. That wasn't even a game. I don't think they got off the bus, respectfully.
Yeah.
Um, but then you see these close games, obviously the Nuggets Clippers. I mean, I think you said last week that could be potentially the series of the first round.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Lake Show. Like you said, they got a 7 game series, but don't be surprised if an upset happens. And I'm just saying.
Trust me, like I told Joey before the show, like my level of concern is still at a zero.
Okay.
I do commend the Timberwolves that had what I would call a legacy game against the Lakers on the road. But let's just be honest, Joey, 21 of 42 from beyond the arc, so they weren't even 50% from the three-point line. That's not going to happen again. And then you look at some of the players that just ended up going off, like Naz Reid, 23 points. Don't think that'll happen again. Jaden McDaniels, 25 points. And you got Anthony Edwards had an okay game, 22 points. But on the note of Anthony Edwards, I think he did give the series away by giving Luka Doncic a little taunt there. I think honestly, Luka and LeBron are probably in for a big game tonight. But um, I think probably the performance I was most impressed with, at least in like a must-win situation for me, was the Pistons last night, an 100-94 win over the Knicks. Knicks looked good in game one, but a good bounce back game for the Pistons to send their series back home, tied up 1-1. Joey, we have talked about the Pistons extensively on the PNN podcast, the team that was, really at the bottom of the barrel last year, and it's kind of funny because on the PNN podcast, we talked about them last year on that historic losing streak they were on. Cade Cunningham really, really turning that franchise around. 33 points in the win last night, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and then some decent fill-in performances by guys with some veteran playoff experience like Dennis Schroeder. But um, I do still think that Clippers Nuggets series is probably the best series of the first round.
Yeah, you talk about the Pistons. I didn't watch. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not watching too much NBA playoffs right now, but I did hear that Cade didn't have a great first game, which probably led to the loss. But I think obviously the whole team runs through him. So I mean, if he's going off, you'll see those filler guys go in. Like
Yeah,
you said, Schroeder, Tobias Harris will step in.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, go for the Pistons winning a playoff game. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk
Right.
it?
Yeah, and
So
I think like especially the win coming last night, the last game before they return home, I expect that place to probably be on tilt when they return for games 3 and 4. Um Also, I think another team worth talking about, the Golden State Warriors, upsetting the Houston Rockets in game one on the road, 10-point victory, 95 to 85. Jimmy Butler, 25 points, Steph Curry, 31 points. I mean, I think that was an early message from the Golden State Warriors. They fell to the play-in. They made it out of the play-in, got that first round matchup against the two-seed Rockets. I think the Rockets are on legitimate upset alert. And quite honestly, I could see that game or that series probably not even being pushed to 7 games. If the Warriors play their best basketball, I could see them finishing that off in 6. But Joy, your thoughts? You're from the Bay, so you know the Warriors.
yeah, all right, bro. I would definitely, like I said, I think I said this before. Warriors have the potential to upset OKC, and I stand by that. I forgot about playoff Jimmy until someone said it. I was like, dude, I forgot. Jimmy Butler turns it on in the playoffs, and that's
Yeah,
what we saw. So obviously, Chef is going to do what he does. We saw that insane shot, just hucking it from 3-point
yeah.
land. Um, I mean, if these guys get it going, bro, I honestly, yeah, I could see them upsetting OKC. Um, Again, that would have to come in the conference finals. But yeah, I mean, legitimately, the Rockets said we have Steph stoppers. Yeah, that was gone out the window after like the first half. So,
Yeah,
um,
I I think honestly at this, I mean, I don't want to overreact, but the Rockets are a team kind of similar to last year where it's like they play really good regular season basketball, but then that lack of playoff experience kind of comes back to bite them in the playoffs. I would probably favor the Warriors in this series though, just given what I saw in game one. Also, like the defensive effort, holding the Rockets to 85 points. I think the lower scoring type of game probably favors the Warriors, and if they can turn in a defensive effort like that, I would anticipate them, like I said, to win the series. Not only that, but maybe stop it before the distance, before 7 games. So
yeah.
definitely, probably one of the more surprising performances in the first round. But moving forward, 3 games on the slate tonight. So when this gets published, it'll all be kind of old news in terms of what happens tonight. But I think some more important points here, kind of in the mix. Damian Lillard is set to return for the Bucks game 2 against the Pacers. Like we mentioned earlier, the Bucks are in a 1 game hole. Jimmy Butler hasn't played. I think it was March 17th, his last game he's played. Blood clot issue in his leg. Um, right after he left, we saw the Bucks go on, I want to say, a 4 or 5 game losing streak and finish the regular season kind of a little rocky. Had a little bit of a push towards the end, but I don't know. So I guess Joe, in your eyes, it was a 19-point win for the Pacers game 1 with Damian Lillard returning. Did that give the Bucks an upper hand, or is it just closing the gap between the Pacers and Bucks? Is it just gonna be a closer game?
I think it's gonna set them well for the rest of the playoffs. I mean, we saw the energy Dame was bringing while he was in street clothes. He
Yeah,
was talking a little bit to Tyrese and all of them. So, I mean, he's gonna bring that energy. I don't think Giannis really brings that type of energy. He doesn't
yeah,
bring that you know we're gonna beat you up and we're gonna do it disrespectfully.
right.
So, again, I think Giannis is feeling it. I think Dame's feeling it, and they know what they got. So I
Yeah.
think they can handle the Pacers. Um, yeah, I think that could separate them from potentially getting swept because we saw no offense from the Bucks besides Giannis. To you, like you said, closing the gap or potentially upsetting. Wouldn't be surprised if for an upset.
Yeah, I think also the thing about Damian Lillard is the difference, in his play, particularly during the postseason. Uh, Last year, in the playoffs for the Bucks, averaging over 30 points a game, 31.3 points, 5 assists, about 3.5 rebounds. Um, and during the regular season, this season, it was he averaged about 25.7 assists, 358 games. So I mean, like just looking at the difference there, not only do I anticipate Damian Lillard to be back into that type of all-star form, I think he elevates his game to another level when it comes to the playoffs. So I think, maybe him coming back actually overcompensates a little bit and makes that series a bit closer. I mean, not a horrible effort though, I will say for the Bucks. I think the score is a little misleading. Giannis, 36 points, 12 rebounds and assists. But other than that, like it was a pretty balanced offensive attack, I would say. Kevin Porter Jr. had 12, AJ Green with 15, Gary Trent Jr. with 14. So multiple double-digit scorers. But I think if you can add a perimeter threat like Dame, that changes the whole series because the Pacers were kind of able to shut them down from outside and force a lot of pressure onto Giannis. And if Giannis has to put up 40 points a game to get beat by 19 points, I think that's a dangerous position for the Bucks to be in. But yeah, I anticipate that series to get closed up as well. Other than that, though, Joey, I think just at least talking about the playoffs, any other points you want to bring up? Because as far as like I know we didn't talk about the Magic Bucks, I think, or the Magic Celtics. I think that series goes chalk. Thunder Grizz, I think that goes chalk. But anything else, I would say Cavs Heat probably goes chalk as well. Anything else though that we should anticipate through the rest of this first round?
No, I mean, I would say you said the Nuggets Clippers potentially. I think the Rockets Warriors could be the series of the first round. Looking at the stats from the Rockets, they had no offense really whatsoever. And like you said, that could be the Warriors defense. I don't think that holds up though. Respectfully, I just don't think the Warriors are that great of an defensive team.
Yeah,
Um, so I could see the Rockets definitely bouncing back next game or throughout the series. Hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, I would take the Warriors to win that. Um, yeah, Celtics Magic was a little closer than I expected. Um, but yeah, I would probably take chalk as well. Although Jason Tatum is hurt with a wrist injury. I believe he's out next game.
okay.
But I mean, the line is Boston by 10.5.
Yeah,
So don't know how much that'll impact them. But I wouldn't be surprised if that series gets close with Tatum hurt,
yeah.
respectfully.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna say we also we kind of saw that when he left too. The game itself tightened up. So yeah, if he's out for an extended period of time, I'd agree with you. But yeah,
yeah, especially when they go to Orlando.
right.
I mean, without him, I think that's pretty tough. Um, yeah, so I mean, it'll rely on Jaylen Brown, Derek White, all those guys. Payne Pritchard had a lot more minutes in that game. So yeah, and then the rest I would say chalk. I mean Thunder, Grizzlies, and yeah, Cavs, Heat. So um, other than that, yeah, I think that's pretty solid. We'll see what happens again. Lake Show, gotta
Yeah,
believe.
I think you took the Timberwolves last episode if I remember. Are
Yeah, I
you
did.
sticking with that?
Um, yeah, I mean, can't take it back now. I mean,
No.
I'm sticking with my guy Ant. No disrespect to you. I'm just,
Yeah,
like I said, I have my reasons. I just think we saw Nas Reed and Rudy Gobert. I think they're the big men that can set him over,
yeah.
especially. Um, and yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I do expect you guys to come back heavy, at least Luka to come back dangerous with that taunt. I know he takes things personally, but I mean, the guy was trash talking the fans in the crowd. So just
So,
be aware of Ant-Man,
yeah.
especially when they go to Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I like, I'm standing on my word too. So, like I can't take back what I said. So I'm taking the Lakers in five. I think they're going to come back in the next four. Um, I think like an interesting conversation too is been surrounding LeBron James. It wasn't a great effort by LeBron in game one. And maybe he's a little bit of like a surprise X factor, right? Just given the fact that he's 40 years old. This Minnesota team, they play a very physical style of defense. That was my biggest takeaway that game. Like they were pushing the Lakers far back from the perimeter. They had to do a lot of work just to get to the three line. And with an aging LeBron, I wonder how that goes, especially if this game gets taken to the deep end, game six, game seven. But I do think JJ Redick has been a good coach so far this year, making adjustments. Very big X's and O's guys. So I think definitely we see a good performance out of them tonight. Um, could be a must-win game too for them. I mean, if you go down 2-0 going back to the Target Center, I think you put yourself in a tough position. But like I said, when this episode goes live, we'll definitely have some more clarity as to that series. Another little last nugget of NBA information. To no surprise, Cooper Flagg has declared for the NBA draft. Draft is on May 12th, so I don't know what is that, like 3.5 weeks here. And of course, that was expected for him to declare for the draft, but I wanted to take a look here at lottery um, odds right now for the number one pick. The NBA, unlike the NFL, they do the lottery. Right now, the three teams with the highest percentage chance to get that number one pick are the Jazz, Wizards, and Hornets. Pelicans follow that at 12.5. Pelicans should be getting a new um, GM, head of basketball operations. And then it falls to the 76ers, Thunder at uh, at 10.5%, Nuggets, Raptors, Spurs, Rockets, Blazers, Mavericks, Bulls, Kings, Hawks, Spurs. Again, round that out. Out of that bottom half of the NBA teams, Joey, I just want to get your thoughts on, maybe where would we like to see Cooper Flag go? Maybe one of the realistic options in terms of odds. Um, where would he be a good fit in the NBA? Because I think this guy's probably a pretty surefire thing. Has some good size to him, some good ball handling abilities. But I think it would be cool if he could be in maybe a little bit of a bigger market rather than going to maybe like the Utah Jazz.
No, I'm looking at it right now. I could see what is that? The I'm confused. Is that the Sixers pick or OKC's?
I think it has to do with how this playoff. I want to say it has to do with how this playoff shakes out, but I think that the priority on that goes to the 76ers from OKC.
Okay. Well, if it stays with the original pick owner, which is the 76ers, I think that's a no-brainer. I think the Sixers need to move on from Embiid, and I was talking with someone earlier. I think Flag is as hyped as Embiid was coming into the league, but he'll actually pan out to do something other
Yep.
than, fight the media and not win a playoff series. So I think Philly is definitely the place to go. Um, I mean, why not? They're ready to roll, and that's a guy you can build around Maxey
Yep.
and not have to worry about anything really dramatic coming from him with when you had a guy like Embiid. So I could see that. If OKC gets it, obviously that would be pretty insane.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, to be honest, I would probably just if I were him, if I got drafted by the Utah Jazz, I'd go back to Duke, respectfully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the 76ers will keep the top pick if it lands among the top six selections. But if it doesn't, but if it will go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, that's very grammatically incorrect here on Sports Illustrated. So
yeah,
my
yeah.
apologies on that. I definitely have a future. But if it will go to Oklahoma City Thunder if it's 7-7 or worse. So
Okay.
essentially what that means is, yeah, it should, just given the odds, stay with the 76ers, but that ordering also puts them at five right now, so that would probably be within the margin of falling to seven or worse. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think honestly it would be a blessing if the 76ers were able to get the number one pick in this draft, because think about if they were able to shop Embiid, the return that they would still be able to get for him uh, at this juncture in his career. I think he still definitely has quite a bit of interest, or would have quite a bit of interest from other teams. So you could add Cooper Flag, you still have that young talent. Um, like you said, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, you can kind of start to build that young core, and also given the fact that it's a bigger market, he would stay on the East Coast. I think that'd be a perfect match. Out of the teams though, among the with the best odds at 14%, the Jazz, Wizards, and Hornets. I'm gonna have to go with the Hornets.
Yeah.
Just kind of the same thing, like. You're staying in the state of North Carolina. There's already big interest for you there. You had the opportunity to change a franchise, turn a franchise around that just hasn't been relevant for a very long time. I think that could be definitely kind of a cool story if it were to pan out. But if not, like the Pelicans at 12.5% wouldn't be a bad spot either. I think when the Pelicans are good, they definitely have a strong support system down there. Um, and maybe kind of right or wrong with Zion on how he didn't really pan out as advertised. But yeah, May
Yeah.
12th is the the NBA, not the WNBA, the NBA draft. And yeah, those are the top teams in the lottery. Obviously, we'll know before then who has the number one pick, but if nothing catastrophically goes wrong, it's going to be Cooper Flag at the number one pick.
Yes, sir. If I'm him, I'm going back to Duke and making more
Duke,
money.
yeah. I mean, you get a heck of an education. You get a ton of money already with NIL, and
Yeah, exactly.
you
And you can
probably
have
get
a
as
chance to go win the ship again.
you probably have more TV time than one of those top three teams, at least in terms of national TV time. So, yeah, fair
Absolutely.
point, fair point.
All right, moving on from basketball, we have a very special guest on to talk about draft day, one of the greatest days of the year. Um, you guys heard him last year when we were on Spotify, the TFF and the PNN crossover. He's half of the TFF because we don't count Gabe. It's Ricardo Pagan, aka Ricky Pagan. Ricky, welcome back to the PNN podcast. How's it feel to be back on?
That feels great. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Edward, for bringing me back on. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm here for Draft Day. Of course, that's a great movie with Kevin Costner. I heard Edward still hasn't watched it yet.
No,
Uh, I think we gotta get that going tomorrow. I think tomorrow's the day to do it.
yeah,
Wait,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's fair,
All right,
fair
cool.
enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. Ricky, your Niners have the 11th pick. We'll get to that because we're gonna go through our mock drafts together.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
but
Oh,
yeah, how are we feeling about the draft this year, Ricky, before we get into it?
um, there's a lot of let's just say there's a lot of meat on the bone, like in the middle of the rounds, like second and third rounds. There's a lot of value, I would say. There's not a
Okay.
lot, blue chip prospects, so a lot of teams are going to be looking to trade back. I was kind of looking or listening to a couple of people. They're talking about how this might be like the Bill Walsh draft for the Niners, how he traded back, got a bunch of players like John Taylor, third round. He caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl against the Bengals to win it. But I think it's just a lot of depth, and that's what the Niners need. They need a lot of depth right now, especially with the rebuild going on. Obviously, big players left like Dre Greenlaw, Debo Samuel. So yeah, Niners need a lot of help, especially on the defensive front. So I'm feeling good about my Niners always. As long as we got our stars, I think we'll be fine.
All right, all right. Respect, respect. And then Edward, I believe you guys are the pick before them at the 10 spot.
Yeah.
How are the Chicago Bears feeling for this draft?
Well, like I said before, I mean, I think the Bears honestly are probably right in the mix for Super Bowl this year. I mean, realistically speaking, with Bet Johnson. No, but I'm feeling good. A lot of what it has been for the Bears, obviously some good moves on the offensive line in this offseason. I think that kind of makes this draft a little more interesting. Prior to those moves being made, I was all about going all in on the offensive line, but definitely maybe some more decisions to be made now. Now that you've beefed that up, but I'm still on mission to protect Caleb Williams, and I'll be there until the Bears have an offensive line, which we haven't had in quite some time. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can never booster the O line too much in the NFL, I feel like. Unless your whole O line is like all pros, but that we never see that. Um, Coming from a team that can actually make the playoffs, I'll speak for the Rams' behalf.
okay,
We're kind of set on the on the defensive side. We do need a middle linebacker desperately, but our D line is very young, so we're good on that. Same with the DBs. And then offense, I mean, the loss of Cooper Kupp, we bring in Devontae Adams. I feel like that's a great filler piece. Probably need a third receiver or a tight end. Um, and then if the need for quarterback comes later in the draft, might as well shoot for it. I wouldn't mind a Dylan Gabriel, but speaking for the first round, um, kind of in the mix, like Ricky said in the middle of the round could get some value picks there. But let's start off with the mock drafts, and we'll start with the number one pick. Tennessee is on the clock. Um, are we all in agreement of who the number one pick is going to be?
Yeah, it's gonna be Cam Ward. I think the betting odds right now is that you have to bet $20,000 to just make $100 for Cam Ward to go first overall. So yeah,
Wow.
he's definitely going first. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Edward, do you have anything to add on that, or you just
No, I
move
mean
on from that?
I like what I saw from Cam. Obviously well over 4,000 passing yards on the year, near 40 touchdowns. So I think a solid pick. And if he hits for the Titans, I think a quarterback that they can build around.
Yeah, definitely need to build around. Again, I'm not too enthused about it just because he's not really throwing the ball to great targets. But again, that'll come throughout the years. Again, Jeremiah Smith is still in college, could target him in future drafts. Um, but yeah, so Cam Ward is your first overall pick. No surprise there. Our second pick, Edward, who did you have taken?
I'm going with Travis Hunter. I think, just everything that we saw out of him in college, I would be interested to see where he's going to play. I like him at cornerback personally, but yeah, I think that's where the Browns go. Although I guess I wouldn't be shocked if it's Abdul Carter, but I'm taking Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Ricky, did you also take Travis?
I'm taking Travis Hunter there as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's just a dynamic player. Either side of the football, they're gonna need talent.
yeah,
But yeah, pretty.
yeah. Him paired up at DB with Denzel Ward is going to be pretty lethal when you look at it on the draft board. And then obviously he could just fill in on like a third down receiver role if they need it. Um, so yeah, I think that's going to be the second pick. Third pick, the Giants. This is basically the pick that relies on the draft the most. What they do here. Again, we're not going to do any trading in this mock draft. We're just going to go through it team by team. But realistically, they could trade it. They could take Abdul Carr. They could take Will Campbell. They could take Shooter Sanders. So many options here for the Giants. Ricky, who do you have the New York Football Giants taking?
I have him taking Abdul Carter, edge rusher at Penn State. Obviously, probably the best player in this draft. I think they're just kind of tired of Kayvon Thibodeau. He hasn't lived up to the hype being drafted high a couple years ago, and they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and that tells me that they're waiting for the next Manning to come in through next year. I think they're gonna try and make a move for Archie Manning next year, so they'll let Shadur Sanders go elsewhere, but they'll grab the best player in the draft here and possibly trade Kayvon Thibodeau. That's what I think.
Okay, okay. Edward, who did you have them taking?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Ricky. I think it's, everything that you mentioned and also just, uh, best player on the board at the three spot and perhaps the best player on the board really in the whole draft. So I think it's a no-brainer. And sometimes you just gotta, you gotta take what's there. And I think that's what the Giants will do here.
Okay, all right. I guess I'll be the odd man out, and I think the New York Football Giants take Shadur at the three. Um, I like you said that Russell Wilson signing, it's all right, but I think Sanders is going to bring that. I don't know. It's a Sanders in New York. I don't see why they wouldn't take him. That's just where he would fit. Um, and again, they're known for taking quarterbacks high that don't really produce well, aka Daniel Jones. And I think they stick with that, and I think they get Shooter Sanders to either sit behind Russell Wilson or he's going to take over the job mid-season. But I think him and Malik Neighbors are going to be all right, but I don't know. I just see the Giants doing that. They're the Giants for a reason, and that's the reason. It's because they're going to take Shedeur Sanders with the third overall pick. Um, Going to the fourth pick, New England Patriots. I'll go first. I haven't taken Will Campbell. I mean, that makes sense type of pick to protect your future quarterback, Drake May. So, anybody else disagree?
All in agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with Derek too. You want to avoid the sophomore slump and just give Drake May the most production. That's what you do.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Jacksonville is on the clock with the fifth overall pick. Edward, I'll toss it to you. Who do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars take?
I'm going to take Mason Graham here on the defense out of Michigan. Like what I saw out of him in college, and I think that's somewhat of a safe pick if you're the Jaguars in this scenario.
Okay, okay. I'm taking Abdul Carr just because I didn't have him going to the Giants, but like you guys said, he's the best player in the draft, and I think they get good value from him at the five, going to Jacksonville. So Ricardo.
Yeah, same here. Mason Graham, D tackle Michigan. They had the fourth worst defensive tackle unit in the league last year. They just couldn't plug up the holes for everyone to run around them. So yeah, Mason Graham, easy pick, top five pick. Um, yeah, happy to go to Jacksonville, I guess. But I know actually, I'll say Jacksonville will be happy to have him because I don't think it will be happy to go to
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
yeah. I was about to say no one really wants to go to Jacksonville unless you're going to TGI Fridays down there. But we'll move on to Vegas and the Las Vegas Raiders, kind of in need of a lot of things as well. Ricardo, who do you have them taking in this draft?
So this is why it gets spicy. I have them taking Shadur Sanders. Uh,
Whoa,
this
okay.
This is why Geno Smith obviously signed that 2 year extension, but the Raiders have an out in 20 after 2026 season that they could just release him for no debt for zero cap space. Um, they get no dead cap. Shador will sit behind him for 2 years and learn the playbook. I think Tom Brady, being as a part owner, he knows the value of the quarterback position. Obviously, Alshon Jennings is going to be a hot commodity here for the Raiders, possibly. A lot of people want them to get Jennings, but I really just feel like Shador in Vegas, that kind of market. Tom Brady just going to pick. He's going to hand the card to Roger Goodell himself, I think. Yeah, I think Shador goes here.
Okay, okay. I like that pick. I forgot Brady was owner, and we've seen Brady talk to the Sanders a lot when they were at Colorado, so that does make a lot of sense. Edward, who do you have them taking?
I'm going with Ash and Genty. I think, this is kind of where I thought they were going. And then, with Pete Carroll now entering that franchise, I think that's kind of the system that he will run, maybe a more run heavy offense. And I think Genty gives him a lot of flexibility to do so. And, Ash and Genty, a player that I'm really interested to see, how he translates to the NFL. I know we've heard some things about him going from a program like Boise State to the NFL, but I really want to see him do well. And I think, under Pete Carroll, especially as a young player, that he can really develop.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have them taking Genty. I think running back is where they need the most help. So I have them taking Genty at the sixth pick. Uh, Toss it back to you, Edward. Who do you have the Jets taking with the seventh pick? They get a new coach in. They lose Rodgers. They lose Adams. That project failed miserably. Who do you have the New York Jets taking?
Yeah, so you see, this is kind of where my ball knowledge goes out the window. I know Joey said beforehand, getting a defensive coach, maybe taking a defensive player, but I'm gonna go with Armand Membo, just a big-bodied guy, offensive tackle out of Missouri. Played that SEC brand of football. I'm not quite sure where the Jets go. I know we've talked about previous episodes, me and Joey, about the Jets and how it was just a total disaster, but I think that's just kind of the direction they go. Kind of a not really a sexy pick, but more of a big bodied guy that can just gives them some protection on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm going with Mason Graham, D-line from Michigan. You guys kind of touched on it, how he's great defensive lineman coming out of that Michigan program. And then obviously with Aaron Glenn as defensive minded coach, I think they lean towards that. Um, and your boy, Edward Justin Fields, is at the helm of that team.
Yeah,
So, you know, could have had him still, but it's all good.
yeah.
Ricardo, who do you have the Jets taking in the seventh pick?
I'm agreeing with Edward. Armand Membo, one of the highest risers from the draft process. Obviously, he had a really good performance at the NFL Combine. With a 4.91 40-yard dash at 332 pounds. That's insane. But yeah, I think they just beef up the offensive line for Justin Fields. And I think it's just a safe pick, like Edward was saying. They could always go Tyler Warren here to upgrade the weapons there for Justin Fields. But I just feel like Membo is just a good pick here. It adds to the already young offensive line over there in New York. So I'll go with Membo.
Okay. All right. Respect, respect. Carolina is on the clock next with pick number 8. I have them taking edge from Georgia. Jalen Walker. I think, that's just going to boost their D line um, even more. I mean, I forgot who do they have that they traded to the Giants, Rick? Um,
You said,
Brian Burns.
oh, Brian Burns, yes.
Yeah, so I think he replaces Brian Burns for what they need. Again, they could go a line just to protect. God damn it, bro! Why am I blanking on these fucking guys' names?
Bryce, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, Bryce Young. Um, again, they need a lot. Again, probably realistically, they could trade back for more value. But Edward, who do you have them taking?
Jalen Walker too. I think just I got a Georgia. I think that's a pretty surefire thing. A little bit of a hybrid guy. I don't know. I just like the pick. I think more than anything, a junior out of Georgia. You kind of distrust that.
Yeah, and I think they need defensive help just to get, the defense off the ball or off the field. And we kind of saw that towards the end of the year. They were kind of peaking. Bryce Young was playing his best ball
Yeah.
towards the end of the year. So obviously he can fit in that system with that O-line, but again, it's going to be O-line or edge rusher. Ricky, who do you have them taking?
I'm going any of those positions. I'm going with Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. I
Okay.
feel like they add on to the weapons that Bryce Young has. Obviously he played pretty well down the stretch. I think you just add to it. You give him that confidence to continue being the franchise quarterback there, and I feel like at pick number 8, that's kind of a steal for Tyler Warren. He's a top 5 prospect in this draft, so I'll go with him going to Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, and that also helps the protection as well. You see a lot of teams draft tight ends to help, protect the edge rushers on pass blocking or release blocks.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I honestly like that pick for Bryce Young there.
I
We
think
go to
they're probably hoping for a Brock Bowers, type production.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean Tyler Warren is the type of guy to have that production. We've seen it in college. He was the same type of build as Brock Bowers. So we move on to New Orleans. This is where it could get spicy as well as, they need a guy that doesn't throw hospital balls to their receivers. So Ricky, who do you have the New Orleans Saints taking with the ninth pick?
And I am going in that position. I'm going with Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Obviously, with the Derek Carr news that he might be out for the season, they're going to need a quarterback. They haven't had a long-term, solution at that position since Drew Brees. Another high riser from this draft process. He had a, Zach Wilson type of pro day with the rolling out to the left and throwing a deep ball down the middle. It's scary, but at the same time, you got to take risk. And some most of the time with these first round quarterbacks, they don't pan out, but you just got to take the chance. And this is a prime position to do it. They don't have to trade up or anything. It's probably going to fall right to their lap. So Jackson Dart to the New Orleans Saints here.
Edward?
Yeah, I got a quarterback going. It's Shador Sanders, though. I think he finally goes here. Derek Carr, what is that? Shoulder surgery, I want to say
Yeah,
he had.
exactly.
I think that definitely puts the Saints in a position to take a quarterback at the 9 spot. I do really like Dart. Me and Joey talked about Dart a few episodes back, but do think they go Shador Sanders. They need a quarterback, and also I think not like it really matters, but definitely kind of a business decision too. You get Shador Sanders playing for your franchise, you're gonna sell seats. So I like that pick for New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm going Dart as well. I agree with Ricky. I think that it literally just falls to them. And I think he has the potential to be the Bo Nix of this draft. So what we will see what happens in New Orleans. They got good weapons for him, Olave, Kamara out the backfield. So yeah, we'll see. Probably a work in progress down in NOLA. But then we move on to Chicago. And who else better than Edward Neiman to lead us off with who the Chicago Bears take in the draft while this draft is in Green Bay, by the way. So
Yeah, and now
expect some
see,
booze.
I think that's a bad omen, really, to begin with for this draft. But obviously, the Bears added Ben Johnson as head coach. Finally, the Bears kind of get the offensive-minded guy at the helm. I got to go with Calvin Banks Jr. I know that's kind of a surprise. I think you go either O-line or you could go edge, but I do have them just really furnishing out the offense with Ben Johnson being an offensive-minded guy. I think the priority right now is protecting Caleb Williams. I know you made moves already to beef up the offensive line, but you really need to shore that up. for Caleb Williams to truly be able to take that second year leap. And I think that's the direction that the Bears will go this year.
Okay, yeah, I'm going with offensive line, Armand Membo. You guys touched on already, but yeah, another high riser in this draft, and I think that's a steal for Chicago. Um, at the 10 spot, you can't protect Caleb Williams enough. Ricky, who do you have him taking?
I had them taking Ashon Genty from Boise State, the running back. Personally, you guys might hear from the TFF podcast, but I'm not a fan of DeAndre Swift. I feel like they could upgrade in that position, and for Genty to just fall right into their lap at pick 10 is such a great value. And again, Ben Johnson with the running backs in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and my boy Dave Montgomery. You're going to need a 1-2 punch, and Genty and Swift could provide that. So yeah, I feel like Genty right here is such a solid pick for them.
Okay, Edward, how do you like the sound of that?
I would love it, and I think part of the reason like I didn't have that falling their way just because I think Genty will go so high in the draft. But if Genty's there, I'm all in for taking him. I think Ricky brings up a great point about the running backs in Detroit and how Ben Johnson was able to work that.
Yeah, yeah, agreed with that. Agreed with that. All right, now we kick it to pick 11. San Fran 49ers. Ricky, do you want to take the helm at who the Niners are going to take after a lackluster 2024 season?
Yep.
I mean, we could just harp on it as long as this episode goes on, but I'm not going to do that to you. So,
I appreciate it. Yeah, you already gave me a lot of shit off the air, but yeah, Niners here. I can see them. They need more depth in the trenches for sure. Like obviously we lost, Leonard Floyd. That's a good edge rusher, and then we lost on the offensive side of the ball. We lost Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore. So it's looking suspect. So here, I'm going to go with Jalen Walker. I still have him available. So he's just going to be a nice hybrid piece for Robert Saleh, who's back to work with. He's a hybrid, so he can play off the edge. He can play inside linebacker to replace Ray Greenlaw. He can even play hybrid safety, possibly, a little bit of corner. But yeah, I think he's just a great athlete. He's going to fit right into the Niners of what they want to do. And again, they need talent, and they need someone to just play different positions that he could just fill in right there from day one. They need stars right now. So going Jalen Walker, edge from Georgia.
okay. Edward, who do you have them taking?
I'm also going an edge from Georgia, but I'm going Michael Williams here. Just for all the aforementioned points that Ricky had about building in the trenches, I think the edge position they can definitely improve, and I don't think that's a bad pick. I think obviously Georgia was very good defensively, and yeah, I wouldn't mind that pick at all, especially at the 11th spot.
Okay. I have him going defense as well, but I have him taking cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan. I think, you lose Travarius Ward, you lose Hufanga in free agency. I think you need to boost that young secondary, but also a guy that can, you can fill the box in like Ricky said, play multiple positions is what they need. And I could see that happening with Will Johnson coming from the Michigan program. That's a blue chip program out there. So I have him going cornerback. Rick, how do you like the sound of a cornerback? And you guys have him taking two Georgia linemen or defensive edge. So I mean, you can't go wrong with either.
I'm good with corner. Obviously, he's going to just add to that cornerback room with Ronaldo Green, second round pick from last year, and then Diamador Lenore, who we just signed to a big extension before the offseason started. So yeah, I'm down with it. Three good corners just to help out the defense. I'm all for it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys. I have them taking Teratoa McMillan. I think the receiver room is a much needed, in much need of an addition there. Realistically, who else do they have besides CeeDee Lamb? And that's where you got to look at big picture. They need Dakota Prescott to at least throw the ball to somebody other than him. And I think McMillan's a great outside piece to be on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb. Edward?
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with McMillan. I don't have much to add. I just think, you can get a 1-2 punch, add something to the receiver room, maybe gives Dallas a little bit of hope, but that's a slippery slope to go down too. So
Yeah. Ricky?
Make that 3 for 3. Pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, you would think they would take it, but Dallas is gonna fuck up and take Shador
right.
if he's there. So
Right.
I could take Omarion Hampton, the running back from UNC. I can see them doing
Yeah,
it too.
yeah. I don't hate that pick. I mean, I think that's the best running back in the class. No bias there whatsoever.
Wow.
Uh, let's go to South Beach. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Another team that was underwhelming last year with all the injuries and everything happening, all the arrests happening. You know, Tyreek Hill getting arrested in the beginning of the season. Ricardo, who do you have the Miami Dolphins taking? I know your boy on the TFF podcast is kind of on the edge of this team.
Yeah.
Save him and have them take someone that can help this team.
They have a lot of holes to fill, so one guy's just not going to do all that. But I think they kind of showed their cards already in this draft because they're open to train Jalen Ramsey. Because of that, I think they go with Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan here. Um,
Mhm.
Outside Jalen Ramsey, they lost, Javon Holland. I think they cut Kendall Fuller. So
Yeah.
their secondary is really lackluster right now. So if you could get a prime cornerback here to help out the defense, that'll work.
Yeah. I would agree with that, although I had Will Johnson going earlier. I think they're kind of done taking cornerbacks. We saw, I think a year or 2 years ago, they took Noah Igbenogany and they tried to fill him in that slot role. Didn't work. And I think Mike McDaniel says, you know what, we're just going to boost this O-line and protect uh, Tua from throwing up gang signs more. And I think they take Kelvin Banks from Texas, um, an offensive tackle. I think they could go him or Tyler Warren, just to protect that edge. At least in my draft, I have Warren falling this far. But Edward,
Yeah, I got Will Johnson going here. I won't beat the dead horse, but a lot of holes to fill on that Miami team. I honestly think they could really pick anyone. I think offensively and defensively, they got to get a lot tougher on the ball. So, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Will Johnson here. I kind of like the value at 13 with him too.
yeah. Again, if they take Will Johnson, who is he going to be the only cornerback there, basically, or like do they have someone to help him? Because if they have a rookie cornerback as their number one, I don't really see that panning out very well.
Yeah, I mean after that, there's not much depth, so
Yeah. But
probably.
again, that's the situation they're in, and can't really expect much for them. I hate to say it to Drew Peasy, but maybe it might be time to look for another team. Let's move on to Indy though, and we'll talk about the Colts. Edward, we'll kick it to you. Who do you have them taking?
Yeah, I got Tyler Warren going here. I think at 14, good pick for the Colts. Get some tight end help out there in Indianapolis. Indy's been in this like weird middle ground for so long now, but I think adding to the offensive side of things can help get them out of that. And I really like Warren. I really like him out of Penn State. I like quite a couple of guys out of Penn State. I'm a big Big Ten guy if you can't tell already from the Midwest, but I think that's the direction. I wouldn't be surprised they go at 14.
Okay, I have them taking the edge rusher, Michael Williams from Georgia. And the reason for this, I think him and Latu, who they drafted last year, will finally pan out. Again, they need a lot of holes, I feel like, on this team. I think offensively, they could be set. We saw Anthony Richardson kind of play decent ball towards the end of the year. Again, Tyler Warren would help that as a check down. And, he has the value of Brock Bowers. But I just think they take an edge and then they secure that defensive line at least for the next coming years with Latu and Michael Williams. But Ricardo, who do you have them taking?
I have him taking a tight end also, but of course Tyler Warren went earlier, so I'll have him taking Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Again, this I think he's just been this past week. He's just been a riser through this draft process. The tight end position for the Colts has been kind of weird past few years. They've used a different amount of guys like Kyler Granson and Mo Alley Cox. I think they just need to solidify that position with Loveland, and he's a good fit for them. He has a comp of Sam Laporta, so just add that to the room for Anthony Richardson to use, or even Daniel Jones to use, depending on when's the quarterback competition over there. But yeah,
Okay. I like that. I like that. We'll move on to Atlanta. I have them taking a cornerback from Texas, Jay Barron. I think this is just the way that they're gonna go. I think their secondary is pretty decent already with the likes of Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell. But after that, I mean, you compare this guy with Terrell on the opposite side of the ball, and I think that's what they're gonna need. Again, they could maybe go O-line to protect Penix. I think they're done with Kirk Cousins as they're looking to shop him right now as well. So, yeah, I have him taking Barron. Edward, who do you have him taking?
I got Barron as well. I think, I wouldn't mind if they invested some in that pass rush, but I think they do go to the secondary here.
Okay, okay. Ricardo?
I'm going Michael Williams, edge from Georgia. Again, he went earlier in guys' drafts, but I think he falls to Atlanta here. Atlanta had a top five or bottom five rush in terms of like rushing the passer. So they're going to need a
Hmm.
young, really good, solid guy here. I think Michael Williams falls to them.
All right, all right. Respect. Let's go to the Arizona Cardinals, another team that kind of is in need of a lot. Ricky, you want to start off? Who do the Cardinals take at pick number 16?
I have them taking Kelvin Banks as a tackle from Texas. I feel like they just got to invest offensive line for Kyler Murray. Jonah Williams over there is in his last year of his deal, who's a right tackle right now. So if Kelvin Banks could beat him out or even play guard for a year and then switch out there the next year, that's a great pick for them. But yeah, take your franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray.
Okay. I haven't taken a receiver. I think you could go either Matthew Golden or Luther Burden here. I think they're going to need more offensive weapons besides Trey McBride. And Marvin Harrison was kind of on a shaky first year, but I think the Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson project has ended there. So I think they'll just get more weapons for K1 in that receiver room. Edward, who do you have?
I got Simmons going here out of Ohio State on the O line. I think that's really the most glaring issue right now, at least offensively for the Cardinals. But like you mentioned, Joy, I think the Cardinals are in need of quite a bit. I wouldn't hate a receiver, but I think they're going to try to go in the direction of protecting Kyler Murray.
Okay, yeah. I think we're all in agreement they need someone off on the offensive side in this draft. So let's go to Cincy. This is where I have finally Tyler Warren coming off the draft board. He falls this far, and I think they're just in that offensive mindset. They need a lot of help on defense, but I think they'll take best player available, which would be Warren, and I think he'll pair well with that offense. So Edward,
Honestly, looking at Cincinnati this draft, I wouldn't be surprised they go all defense. I think they needed a lot of help there. They made big investments to keep their star wide receivers in. Depending on what happens with Trey Hendrickson, I still think you need some more pass rush. So I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart here, an edge out of Texas A&M.
okay, I like that pick. Rick,
I had them going defense as well with Jade Barron, the corner out of Texas. Obviously, they need help on the defensive side of the ball. And like what Edward said, all their picks could possibly be defense. So this is the start right here, pick 17.
yeah, I like it. I like it. Seattle with the pick number 18. Ricky, who do you have Seattle taking with this first pick?
I have them taking, sorry, give me a second. I have them taking James Pierce Jr. I just feel like they're just going to take someone random like usual. That's just how they draft. But yeah, just yeah, I don't know. It's an edge rusher out of Tennessee. I feel like they just need help on defense, especially with Mike McDonald being the head coach there, being the defensive coordinator for the Ravens so long. They're just gonna make an interesting pick, and I feel like this is it right here.
Yeah, I haven't taken edge also Mike Green from Marshall. Um, that's just I think he's a high value pick here, and like you said, they need help on the defensive side of the ball. They also need offensive line help as well. I was watching a couple games last year. The offensive line did not look top tier at all, so wouldn't be surprised if they go offensive line here. But Edward,
Yeah, I'm gonna go offensively here. Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. He's native out of Houston, went to Texas, has been in the state of Texas his whole life. Just under 1,000 receiving yards this year, 9 touchdowns for Texas. Kind of just a skilled player, best available. But I really don't know, what's cooking in Seattle. I think they could really do anything, and I wouldn't be too shocked, disappointed, surprised any of the above. So yeah.
okay. Let's move on to Tampa at the 19th pick. Um, I'm gonna have them taking linebacker Jod Campbell from Alabama. I mean, I think they lost Levante David in free agency. Obviously, that's kind of a hole to fill.
I feel
with the
like
loss.
they re-signed him for a year.
Oh, okay. Who did they lose someone in the linebacker room,
Well, I
or
know
was
they
it just
White a while ago, but
yeah?
yeah,
Either way, Levante David is aging to the age of 40, so I think this is a great pick for them as he can just learn under the wing of probably a future Hall of Famer, I would say, at the linebacker position. So yeah. Well, Rick, who do you have him taking?
I have him taking the same guy. Long-term replacement for Lante David. Great value. Just get him right here at 19 for the Bucks, and you just add to your defense. So yeah, great value pick right here for them.
Yeah, make it
Yeah,
3 for 3.
Edward.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just a safe pick for them, and they're kind of in that playoff hunt race. So I think that could set them over the edge, like a Nakobe Dean for Philly type of pick right there. We'll move on to Denver, pick 20. I have them taking Omari and Hampton, North Carolina prodigy, probably best running back in the draft, no bias. Um, but again, they tried with North Carolina running back before, um, and that didn't pan out as well. And then they really don't have anybody in that room right now, so could be a workhorse, could be a A1 back for them. Um, we'll see what Sean Payne does with that with him in that offense. But Edward, who do you have him taking?
I got him taking Hampton as well. Not sure he's the best running back in the draft. I think that's a little, optimistic, but yeah, I like what I saw about out of Denver last year. Add to that offense, tough division though, so who knows?
Yeah, agreed. Rick?
I think they add to their defensive line here. I think they get Walter Nolan at Ole Miss. Really good three tech defensive tackle there. I think he just fits right into right next to DJ Jones, who they just re-signed. Make it a long-term replacement for DJ Jones, who was with the Niners for a few years. So Walter Nolan's a pretty good pick here. I feel like they'll wait on running back later on in the draft.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, running back is the deepest position in this draft, but I think they address it first, and then they'll fill other needs. They could go wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised with that. Pittsburgh is on the clock next. Ricardo, who do you have Pittsburgh taking?
I'm reaching for Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama. I heard a friend of mine, Nick, say that they get Milroe, he's gonna quit being a Steelers fan. But yeah, I think it's just another reach at that position. I feel like they took Kenny Pickett around this spot a couple years ago. I feel like they'll make that mistake again because the only quarterback they have on their roster is Mason Rudolph. There's been no sign that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign there. So yeah, I feel like they panic and they take Milroe just to have that someone at that QB position.
I agree. I have him taking Milrow as well. I just see they can build around him. I mean, you see that offense right now. Um, they like the run game there. I mean, you can run the option with him. You can have him run running back plays if you want. I think he'll be a great asset to build around in Pittsburgh, and they need someone on the offensive side that's going to actually score touchdowns rather than just kick field goals and try to win games. But Edward, who do you have?
I got Jackson Dart going here. Ricky mentioned it. Great combine performance. If he's there, I think you take him. I don't think there's any need to panic. Go out and get Aaron Rodgers and try that because I just don't foresee that going well. So take Jackson Dart if he's there. Had a great season at Ole Miss, and everybody aboard another 500 season on the way.
Moving on from Pittsburgh, let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll start off with Edward. Who do you have them taking at the 22nd pick?
I'm going with Colson Loveland. I think, offensively, the tight end is probably the most glaring need for them. Chargers team held to 17 points or less. I think 7 times this season. I think that's what my notes, if they're correct. So, despite going 11-6, I think offensively you can still add some, and I think Loveland would be a good pick. I think a pretty solid product out of Michigan.
Yeah, I like I like that pick also, but I just feel like they're going to go receiver. I think that's what they need alongside Lad McConkey. So I think they take Luther Burden from Missouri, good outside threat. I think he could be the receiver that they need. I think they're done with what's his name? Rick.
Quentin Johnson.
Yeah, they're done with QJ. So who do you have them taking, Rick?
I had them also taking wide receiver. I think they use high draft capital again at that wide receiver spot. I have him taking Mr. Golden from Texas to fill in for Quentin Johnson and be a nice 1-2 punch with Lad McConkey over there.
Yeah, agreed. Green Bay, who do we have them taking? Ricky
I
at the 23rd.
the defensive tackle out of Oregon, Deron Harmon or Derek Harmon, excuse me. This is a guy the Niners are actually looking at. They spent exclusive time in Oregon on their pro day. John Lynch and their head coach over there have a really good relationship. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners take him at 11. That might be a little bit too rich for my blood, but Derek Harmon here at this spot for the Green Bay Packers, I feel like is a great pick for them.
Agreed. I haven't taken the same guy, so won't beat on too much. Edward.
I got them going with the cornerback Maxwell Hairston. I think just depending on what happens with Jair Alexander, I think the cornerback could be at the forefront. You get a playmaker out of Kentucky. Defensively you get better and go from there. But I think that's all dependent, like I said, on Jair.
Yeah, I think a DB would also be value for them as well. You can go D line or DB, whatever they choose. Minnesota, I have them taking Malachi Starks, Georgia safety. I think that secondary needs a little bit of help with the aging Harrison Smith, and then I don't even know who their free safety is at this point. But a guy that can play in the box as well, so you can put him at a linebacker position if you want. So I think that adds a lot of value for their defense to get the offense on the field because Kevin O'Connell's going to be cooking with them. Edward, who do you have the Vikings taking?
All right, I'm taking Starks as well. Vikings only 4 picks in this draft, so not a whole lot of flexibility there. I think decent free agency period for them, but yeah, I think you gotta play smart here, and I think they go with the safety position.
Okay, Ricardo.
I had them going secondary as well. I had them taking Maxwell Hairston, the corner at Kentucky. I feel like they just lost one of their big corners to the Colts. I'm forgetting his name, but I know someone moved over from Minnesota to the Colts in that secondary, so that fills in that spot right there for them.
Yeah, I think defense is what they're going to need. Edward said 4 picks. You got to make at least one of them count. And I think DB is going to be where they head in the first round. Moving on to the Houston Texans. Ricardo, who do you have D'Amico Ryan's taken?
Well, they lost their left tackle and right tackle this past offseason, so I had them taking Josh Simmons here. Of course, he's dealing with his shoulder injury. He's a little bit of a project, but I feel like this is a good spot for him to go. He's dropped down a little bit because of the injury, but I feel like the Texans take a risk on him, and then they still have that fifth-year option if they do take him for him to be a pretty good tackle in this league.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't taken the same position. I could also see him maybe going D line just to help Will Anderson out, but I think they need to protect the quarterback position as much as they need. And I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs. That was probably the one that separate them from the most. They made a playoff run, but to get over that hump, I think they're gonna have to protect at all costs. So Edward.
Yeah, I'm going offensive lineman too. I'm going Gray. I think it's Zabel out of North Dakota State. Little biased there. Spent the last 6 months in the state of North Dakota, so why not? Just for my people back in the Dakotas.
All right, bro. Los Angeles Rams here. Kind of in need of not much, but I could see us taking Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan. Edward, you kind of harped on it a little bit also, just that Michigan blue chip program. Tyler Higbee is kind of aging also, kind of injury prone, and it could also help that protection for Matthew Stafford, who we brought back. So I have him taking Colston Loveland. Ricky?
For the Los Angeles Rams, I had them taking Azarare Thomas, the corner at Florida State. I feel like the Rams just need a lot of help on their defense, so getting someone in that secondary will help them a lot. But yeah, big lengthy corner for you there in Los Angeles. Joey, how you feeling?
I mean, I'd said before, I think our defense is pretty set. So I don't know why you're dissing our defense when we swept you guys last year. But it's all good. Edward, who do you have? We
Agree.
won't touch on it.
A little outside the box here. I'm going wide receiver Egbuka out of Ohio State. Why not? I'm not. I don't lock into the Rams like you do, Joey, because why would anyone be a Rams fan? But yeah, I got him going the wide receiver position. Why not, right?
Yeah, I love that pick. Could definitely add. I mean, if you have him, Devontae and Puka, I mean, who's really stopping that offense? So I appreciate that pick, Edward. I don't agree with that comment on the LA Rams fan. I'm still surprised you're a
Man,
Chicago Bears fan.
it's an away team's like home game every time.
It's all good. I'd rather have that than just have no one show up to our games
Okay.
and at Soldier Field. But it's
All
all
right.
good. We
Okay, that's
move on.
fair. That's fair. That's
We
okay.
move on. And we'll move on to Baltimore. Ricky, who do you have Baltimore taking?
I feel like they invest heavy in the wide receiver group here, and they get Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver out of Iowa State. Very in high regard for my quarterback, Brock Purdy. They have obviously played with each other for a year. But yeah, I think the Ravens just add to the offensive unit over there. So, Jaden Higgins.
Okay. Edward?
I got him going Mike Green out of Marshall and Edge. Not exactly sure what Baltimore. I feel like there's a few different number one priorities that could be have a case, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the edge position, Mike Green.
Okay. Yeah, I have him taking Egbuka from Ohio State. I agree with Ricky. They need some receiver help besides Zay Flowers, and then if Mark Andrews at the tight end spot. So I think they need weapons for Lamar Jackson and to get over that hump besides him just running around. With that though, we're gonna have Ricky wrap up his picks, and then me and Edward will go through them. Also, I think Ricky has to head out here. So Rick, you can take over. Who do you have from Detroit to Philly?
Cool. So I got Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle um, for the Detroit Lions. And then I got Donovan Ezuraku, the edge rusher, for them to help out their defense, get them over the hump. Buffalo, I got them going wide receiver here with Emeka Abuka. I remember exclusively watching him destroy my Marshall Thundering Herd on primetime primetime TV over there. And then Casey, I have them going offensive tackle Josh Connerly just to protect Patrick Mahomes. And this is where I think Mike Green goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they just continue to help that edge on the defensive line that got him to win the Super Bowl. And with Mike Green's off the field issues, I think he just drops down here, but that's great value. And of course, Marshall Thundering Herd, great pick right there in the first round.
Yeah, well, the Philly likes those off-field issues with those Georgia D tackles, so I think he fits
Do it
in well.
in the Sun Belt Conference, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that. But anyways, thank you, Ricardo, for joining us. We appreciate the time you spend with us, and hopefully we get you on here soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Edward. Check us out at TFF Podcast on Spotify. We're going to drop an episode soon for the NFL offseason recap and also for the preview of the NFL draft. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you very much for your time.
Go on.
Say up.
Alrighty, so we'll pick up with Detroit. Make sure to go check out the TFF pod as well. Got some good insight for your fantasy football needs. Edward, who do you have your Detroit Lions? I know you're a big Lions fan over there. Who do you have them taking?
Yeah, Loki, I kind of hate this year for the Lions. You lose your offensive mind, you lose your defensive mind. It's like, we're really going to see, I think, how much Coach Campbell's got, in him. But I'm going to take Derek Harmon. I feel like, defensive line out of Oregon. When in doubt, go to your defense, shore up that. And I think, as you get things figured out on the coaching side, I think that will help you greatly. But like I said, I'm not loving this year for Detroit.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a down year for Detroit. I agree with Rick. I think they're going to take Kenneth Grant just based on the hometown pick. Michigan guy. You get the fans with that pick, and you can have him on the opposite side of Hutch, who I think they played together for a year in Michigan. So why not? Let's take the hometown kid. Who do you have Washington taking? Big year coming off a big year.
Yeah.
Who do you have them taking?
Yeah, I think they're once again dangerous in the NFC. I got them taking an edge out of Tennessee. James Pierce Jr., Dante Fowler Jr., obviously the departure of him, I feel like leaves an open spot there at the edge. And I think really, like I said, Washington is a threat once again to make it to the NFC Championship game. Offensively, love what I've seen out of them. If they can get a good edge in this draft, I think it very well could put them on the brink of a Super Bowl trip.
Yeah. I'm going edge too. I'm just going Shamar Stewart. I think he falls to them. And that's great value coming out of Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think offensively, I think they're mostly set. Maybe could take interior offensive lineman, but with that being said, I think defense needs the most help. So, and with the loss of Chase Young and earlier, and then you said Dante Fowler, Shamar Stewart could be that good replacement. For Buffalo, kind of stuck here. I'm not sure who Buffalo would take. I like the receiver position, although I just don't think they reach on Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Jack Beck is also up and coming receiver. So I'm gonna toss it to you. I wonder who do you have them taking?
I'm going with Kenneth Grant, defensive line, heavy on Michigan in this draft, so I'm just going to continue that trend here. I think cornerback also is another need that they could address. I would kind of like to see him go defensively here. Offensively, wide receiver would not be bad. But with Detroit, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, Joey. Like you have to win on the margins, right? You're so close to getting there, and really, the number one task is to beat the Kansas City Chiefs to get out of the AFC. Because if they're out of the AFC, they're very well, I think, in position to win a Super Bowl. So you just got to make some marginal better moves, and I think Kenneth Grant out of the Big Ten, is a ready to play type of guy on the defensive side of the ball.
I like that pick. I'm going D-line as well, but I'm taking Walter Nolan from Mississippi. Um, like you just said, I think defense is where they need to address. I think the offense uh, provided well last year. I don't think you really need to take a first round pick to booster it. Although, they could reach on a second round pick if they want a receiver. But yeah, so I think they addressed the defensive line there. Kansas City, again, I think I'm gonna go with Ricky on that, and I think they take an interior lineman, and I think they take Tyler Booker from Alabama. Again, just protect Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully boost that run game a little bit. Um, but we'll see. Might be a down year for the Chiefs. You never know. Can't really count them out. Like you can count really Detroit out, I would say. Out of those two teams, I think if we look at Detroit, you see a down year. I think KC, you can't really bet against them. But Edward, who do you have?
Going to O tackle here, Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. I really thought, just in general, in that game, in the Super Bowl, they just kind of got obliterated in the trenches. So, I think if they can shore up just maybe some of the, less exciting positions, Exhibit A, offensive line, protect Patrick Mahomes. You can put yourself. I'm not ready to count the Chiefs out. Every time I say it's gonna be a down year for them, they surprise me. So. I'll still say they're right there for a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then finishing our draft, the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs coming off what was a blowout in the Super Bowl. I do agree with Ricky. They take an edge, and it'll be James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. I think that just makes the most sense with the departure of Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat, just to pair someone up on the edge. Why not take James Pierce? Your DBs are kind of set.
Yeah.
They lost Darius Slay, but they have probably the two best rising corners. So I think just addressing that need at edge, and that's what Howie Roseman does, is address the needs early. So Edward,
Yeah, I got Walter Nolan. I think defensively, I mean, I don't think there are a whole lot of things that the Philadelphia Eagles need, but I do think defensively they can invest. Walter Nolan, out of Mississippi, help you out there. And yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, my ball knowledge, especially towards the end of this draft, kind of goes out the window. But I do think Philadelphia goes defensively with this final pick in the first round. But yeah, shout out Coach
yeah,
P.
yeah. So that's the first round mock draft. We're gonna end it there. But all in all, I think it's all said and done. Whoever gets Cam Scatabo is gonna win the draft.
Right.
So
And that's a guy that I am just sick that's not on the board in round one. So uh, I think, hey, speaking of running backs though, I can't, Scatterboo and the Bears, I think that's probably a lock, right?
yeah, we'll see. I mean, Rick had you guys taking Genty in the first round.
You know,
I mean, you guys have a lot of picks that you can spend on, and Ben Johnson likes his running back, so you like him paired with Swift?
why not? I mean, I'm more high on Swift than Ricky was. So I mean, that's just me though. That's just me. Scatterboo's not going to be your number one running back, but good like third down back, chunk yardage guy. I think could get the people in Chicago excited because there's not a lot of things to be excited about in Chicago.
Yeah, agreed on that point. But I don't know. I've heard rumors the Niners are looking at him, to help. That running back room is always injured, it seems like for
Yeah.
them. So why not take Scalabo behind McCaffrey? So we'll see what happens where he goes. Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, out of all the teams, I don't know who could really steal the draft. But again, it all depends on that third pick with the
Yeah.
Giants. That's where this draft is going to head.
I
Uh, yeah,
also I don't know how feasible it is, but just because, I pay attention to the Bears more than anyone. I've seen people saying that they're trading up to try to get Genti if they think there's a run on him. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised though, but we didn't know trades in this draft, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see quite a bit of movement in this first round. I think there's definitely some teams that could use some more draft capital, and that might trade back just given, the depth that some of these teams have entering this year's draft. So wouldn't be surprised, but yeah.
yeah. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the P&M podcast. Got our first guest on here with Ricardo Pagan. Um, yeah, exciting day coming up. This will air probably Wednesday, so tomorrow will be uh will be the draft, and we will see what happens with that third overall pick, and then we will see how the Chicago Bears fumble the draft once again.
Right.
So, with that being said, have a good draft day. Hopefully, you guys watch the Lakers tonight, Tuesday night. And yeah, playoff basketball is on this whole week, and then the draft is Thursday. So we'll talk to you guys next week and see where we're at in the draft and talk about who won the draft, who stole the draft, and who lost the draft. So that being said, we'll catch you guys next week, and hopefully you guys have a good one.